Naoto is a shy midget loser who can't talk to girls without wetting himself. However, everything changes when the hottest chick in school starts teasing him, but he secretly likes getting bullied and falls in love with her. The story begins with Naoto walking into the library to work on his latest manga series, only to find some hot girls gossiping about guys with enlarged sticks. After taking his seat, he becomes nervous at the chicks laughing because he has a pocket-sized sausage and can't stand the company of hot girls. As he starts working on his manga series, the girls' constant yapping keeps distracting him to the point he starts wishing they would just shut up. Soon after, one of the chicks walks up to his side to get a book behind him, so he loses his cool and accidentally drops his stuff on the floor. The chick then picks up the manga he is working on and shows her friends, who all start to trash talk his drawings, making him wish the anime gods would send him to an isekai. As the girls keep roasting him, Nagatoro, one of the chicks, just picks up the manga and stares at it intently. So when her friends leave, she decides to stay with him because she seems interested in the manga. She then reads through it and concludes that Naoto wrote the male protagonist based on himself and starts to make fun of him because, unlike the protagonist in his manga, the idiot does not know how to bag a figure-8 baddie. To prove her point, she decides to act like the female protagonist in the story, where Naoto will have to be smooth and go for a kiss. But when it gets to his turn, he fumbles badly, as if kissing causes cancer. She then starts to make fun of him for pretending to act like a player when his V-card is still intact. Completely flustered, he tries to look away to maintain the little steez he has left, but the crazy chick keeps tormenting him. He then starts to tear up because the insult is getting too much, and she proceeds to wipe his tears with her handkerchief. Getting home later in the night, her teasing keeps replaying in his head, making the humiliation even worse. The following day at school, he heads to the art room to draw, but Nagatoro suddenly stops him to play with him. He returns her handkerchief and walks away, thinking she'll never talk to him again, but this just makes her smile like a lunatic. Inside the art room, he sighs as he continues his drawing, only for her to walk in, make sure they are alone, then demand he draw her. He refuses at first, so she tries convincing him by showing her mommy milkers. Taking a sneak peek, he quickly complies before she corrupts his virgin eyes, which makes her laugh in response. He then tries to draw her, but struggles to even look at her properly. She quickly figures this out and promises to give him a reward if she draws her well, so he summons the courage to remain calm and starts to draw her. After he is done, she decides to fulfill her promise and asks him to close his eyes. She then moves closer to him, and he immediately thinks it is a kiss, so he extends his lips, which only gets him a flick on the nose. Seeing his flushed face, Nagatoro starts to make fun of the foolish guy for believing she would actually kiss a loser like him. After laughing at him, she wipes the tears on his face with her handkerchief because her words really got to him. As she does this, he wishes he could just miraculously delete himself from existence because he finds it hard to believe that his junior made him cry again. On the way home after school, she continues to follow him till she finally stops him in his tracks and shyly asks her to go out with him. Caught off guard, Naoto starts stuttering like a broken robot, so she lets him know she is just kidding and starts to question why he thinks any chick in their right senses would want to go out with him. Defeated, he says he already knew she was joking and continues walking home, but she kicks him, and he ends up rolling into a nearby drainage channel. Even at that, he simply squeezes his shirt and continues to walk home like it is nothing, which makes her ask him if he ever gets angry because she has been horrible to him. Apparently, he is already used to this kind of treatment because he has been picked on since he was young. However, Nagatoro just assumes he has a crush on her and teases him again. He then finally summons courage and admits that, although she annoys him, he does not completely hate her company. Hearing this makes Nagatoro smile, and offers to get to know him better. The following day at school, Naoto draws in the art room, feeling satisfied with his drawing, until Nagatoro suddenly walks in, hoop dancing like a maniac. Confused as to what is going on, he asks what's up, but she just tells him to join in her dancing. He then proceeds to join her but accidentally catches a glimpse of her silky garment, which instantly leaves him flustered. She also notices this and immediately calls him cultured for trying to see what he can't have. A few hours later, he enjoys his lunch alone in the art room, and before pulling out a cultured manga he bought on his way to school. As he thinks of how hot the manga is going to be, Nagatoro suddenly barges in, and he quickly hides the manga. She knows something is up with his attitude, and even though he tries to deny it, she eventually finds out that he is hiding a cultured manga. As she goes through it, she confirms her suspicion, but he desperately claims he only bought it for the plot and not the cultured stuff in it. She, however, refuses to believe and starts to tease him by asking if he likes playing with mommy milkers as they did in the manga. He then tries to explain that he was just trying to read the main vampire story, and what she is referring to is just a bonus chapter. Hearing this piques her interest, so she reads the manga, and after she is done, she tells him about how interesting the manga actually is. Since she loves vampire stories, she continues to yap about it and even talks about a loser in the novel that reminds her of Naoto, who is always getting chased around, even while holding a bunch of garlic till the vampire eventually gets a hold of him. He quickly disagrees with her notion, but she tells him to chill since he has never smashed anyone, so a vampire's bite won't turn him into a mindless ghoul. He tries to defend himself by asking if she has proof to back up her claim of him never smashed anyone, since only a vampire can figure that out. Instead of answering the question, she uses the chance to tease him by asking for a neck bite, and he stands up to get away from her. Even at that, she jumps on him with a mischievous grin on her face and leans closer to his neck for a bite, only for his bad breath to immediately put her off. He quickly uses the chance to escape, but she stops him, and she ends up mistakenly grabbing his sausage in the process. After school, the two head home in complete silence, but Nagatoro suddenly sees this as another opportunity to tease him and starts to ask if that was the first time a chick had touched him. Uncomfortable with the question, he claims that he does not know, but she can tell he is lying. She asks if she could try it again, which catches him off guard, and as she tries to go for it, she decides against it at the last second and tickles his stomach before running off. After getting home, he reads the cultured manga, but his mind keeps going to Nagatoro, and he quickly tries to calm himself before he gets the urge to grab a lotion. The following morning, he sits to resume his drawing only to be interrupted by Nagatoro once again. She suddenly suggests they play a game of button poking, where they have to guess where the other person's high beams are through their clothes. He quickly refuses because it is weird for him to do that to a chick, but she just shades him for being a virgin. Even at that, he maintains his stance because he believes there is no point in playing, so she reveals that she is going to give him a ticket she can use to stop her if he finds her teasing getting overboard. She claims that the ticket also allows him to request crazy things like drawing her nude, but he replies that he does not want any of that. He then considers that he can actually use the ticket to drive her away for good, so he complies. She proceeds to touch his high beams, and he immediately goes crazy from her touch. The longer she teases him, the more he loses composure till he cannot take it anymore and tells her to stop before he completely loses himself. She complies, and he immediately collapses to the nearest stool like a deflated balloon. When it gets to Nagatoro's turn, he summons the courage to touch hers, but he keeps fidgeting, and when he is just inches away from touching them, she suddenly announces that his time is up before running off to meet her friends. After school, Naruto chills at one of his favorite restaurants that is away from the school because he wants to avoid Nagatoro's constant teasing. Unfortunately for him, Nagatoro and her friends walk in shortly after, and he quickly ducks his head to avoid being seen. He then tries to listen to what they are talking about, and it turns out that Nagatoro and her friend, Sakura, are on a double date with guys from their school. While Sakura tries to talk to the guys, Nagatoro acts very uninterested and just sips on her drink. Naruto watches the guy trying to talk to Nagatoro with pity, since he does not know he is dealing with a human firecracker. But to Naruto's surprise, Nagatoro stays cool throughout. On the way home, Naruto starts to wonder if he is the only one Nagatoro toys with, only for her to suddenly smack him from behind. They then walk home together, and Nagatoro starts acting like a clown just to entertain him. The following morning, Naruto draws alone in the art room, hoping to get a peaceful day, only for Nagatoro to suddenly interrupt him and insist that she models for him. He then declines immediately, claiming he prefers drawing objects over people. She refuses and strips in front of him, making him shut his eyes instantly because he thinks she actually stripped, knowing he wants to peek. He then opens his eyes slowly, only to see that she actually has a swimsuit on, and she calls him a closet-cultured guy for thinking she can ever be unclothed in front of him. After classes, he and Nagatoro head home in the rain until they find a shed to stay under till the rain eventually stops. As they sit on the other side of a table to dry their clothes, Nagatoro tells him not to look at her because her uniform is currently see-through, claiming she knows he wants to peek. He quickly denies it, but her constant teasing makes him start to wonder if she is just trying to mess with him, since she had a swimsuit on earlier. Acting on this, he turns to confirm his suspicion, only to be surprised to see that she actually has her undergarment on. He quickly turns and apologizes for trespassing, but she lets him know that his actions just showed that he is truly cultured. He quietly mutters that it was an accident, but when she leans closer to hear him, their arms accidentally brush together. Just then, the wind picks up, and he quickly turns to see if she is okay, only to realize that he had just trespassed again. She uses the chance to tease him for being gross till she sneezes because of a cold. He then suggests they head home since the rain does not seem to be stopping anytime soon, so she asks him to stop by at her place since it is closer than his. Getting to her place, he starts wondering if she brought him home just to mess with him even more. She soon interrupts his thoughts to ask why he seems edgy, but instead of answering, he just looks around and asks about her family, only to learn that she is home alone. Shortly after, she hands him a towel and some clothes he can change into so she can put his wet uniform in a dryer, pending the time of his stay. After he is done changing, he sits with her for a cup of coffee in her room, but his eyes are everywhere but hers. She figures he is acting weird, so she asks if it is his first time in a chick's bedroom. He quickly claims it is a secret, but she knows him well enough to know it is his first time. To tease him, she asks him what a guy and a chick do when they are alone in a bedroom. Though the question surprises him, he tries to act cool and claim that they study. Realizing he still has zero experience, she tries to paint a vivid description of what goes down when they do, and when he tries to stop her, she innocently claims that she was just referring to a manga series she is currently reading. They then move on to play a video game to pass the time, and even though he initially has the upper hand because he finally wants payback for all her teasing, she starts to distract him to make him lose. After the rain has stopped, he bids her farewell and comments on how fun the game is, so she suggests they play it some other time. The following day, he decides to eat at the cafeteria for the first time in a while. As he looks around for where to sit, he realizes that there is no available seat until Nagatoro calls on him to join her and her friends, since they have an empty seat. Though he does not want to sit with them since it is equivalent to walking into hell, he decides to eat as fast as possible and get out since there are no available spaces. As he takes his seat, Yoshi, one of Nagatoro's friends, asks if he's dating Nagatoro. He quickly tries to deny it, but Nagatoro beats him to it and lies that they are. Hearing this makes her friends burst into laughter, and Gamo, the other friend, asks him how far he has gone with Nagatoro. Flustered, he awkwardly asks what she means by that, but this only makes the chicks try to take advantage of his naivety and shoot their shot. His embarrassed reaction immediately gives him away as a virgin, and they start to make fun of him for that. Nagatoro soon joins in the teasing, and when her friends call him a pet, she starts to play with his hair, claiming it feels fluffy. Yoshi tries to confirm by touching it also, but she suddenly slaps her hand away like she is guarding him. Seeing Nagatoro's reaction, Gamo compares him to a bug that cannot fight back, and Nagatoro quickly cautions her for taking it too far. This catches the others by surprise, but Gamo seems unfazed and just apologizes for messing with her boyfriend. He finds it hard to believe that Nagatoro is actually getting angry on his behalf, so he stands to defend himself and claim he is not Nagatoro's boyfriend. The entire table suddenly goes silent as they wait for him to utter his next words, but he suddenly becomes shy and sits down to continue his meal. Nagatoro's friends get annoyed because they believe he was supposed to say something nice about her, so he shyly claims that he just wanted them to know that he is not dating Nagatoro. After lunch, Nagatoro questions him on why he never fights back, even though he gets picked on a lot, and advises him to always smack anyone who tries to cause him trouble. She then tries to make him mad to see if he will smack her, and he smacks her in response. Proud that he finally fought back, Nagatoro immediately tries provoking him again, but he feels the insult is too much that time around, which makes her apologize immediately. Hearing this makes his eye twitch, and she starts teasing him to just smack her instead of trying to hold his tears in. Frustrated, he swings at her, only to accidentally smack her bosoms instead, thereby causing the two to become embarrassed. The following day, Naoto washes his hands after finishing an oil painting, and as usual, Nagatoro interrupts him. She tells him to move over so she can use his tap, even though several others are free. As they start to wash their hands next to each other, she suddenly blurts out that it looks like they are having a bath together before a smashing session. Hearing this immediately sends his poor brain into factory settings, and he informs her not to talk like that again. She laughs in response and grabs his hands to wash herself. Unable to handle the teasing anymore, he quickly runs off. During lunch, he enjoys his meal in the art room after the previous day's lunch disaster until he hears the door open. He thinks it is Nagatoro trying to get on his nerves again, but as he turns, he is shocked to see that it is Yoshi and Gamo instead. The two chicks then sit in front of him to smile at him mischievously while he takes a sip of his drink, wondering why Nagatoro is not there when he needs her most. Gamo suddenly asks if he has ever squeezed mommy milkers before, and he immediately chokes on his drink. He then asks why they are asking him such a question, only to learn that Nagatoro told them about him being a closet-cultured guy. He quickly denies it, but Gamo keeps rambling about how sad it is that he has never touched mommy milkers before. To make up for that, Gamo suggests he squeeze hers, and Yoshi joins in on the teasing, but his little brain is unable to comprehend such goodies, so he stands and proceeds to run off. However, the ladies catch up to him and force him to grab Gamo's melons. He then starts to feel awkward, and Gamo reveals the bean buns from underneath her shirt to show him that he touched them instead. Just then, Nagatoro walks in on their discussion, and her friends immediately run off before she cooks them. After they leave, Naoto thanks Nagatoro for helping him out, but she is more concerned about him actually squeezing Gamo's melons, and he quickly clarifies that he squeezed a bean bun instead. Relieved, she starts to laugh that he didn't get to squeeze Gamo's melons, so she suggests he squeeze hers instead. He refuses, and she brings out a premium bean bun to grab his attention, and it works like magic. She then challenges him to figure out whose bean bun is softer between hers and Gamo's, and he reluctantly agrees, so she turns her back toward him and hides the bean bun under her shirt for a guessing game. Even though he is shocked, a determined Nagatoro keeps encouraging him to guess anyway. Thinking it is harmless, he touches the first one with his eyes closed to observe it closely. While at it, the bean bun on the other part accidentally falls off, but since his eyes are closed, he does not know and touches it like that, thereby leaving her in shock. As he continues to study it, he realizes that it feels much softer and bouncier than the other one and declares it the premium bean bun. However, he realizes that he was actually caressing her actual melons, and he quickly apologizes, but she angrily starts smacking him repeatedly. The following morning, Naoto watches a baseball match from the art room and wonders why Nagatoro is running late. Apparently, he agreed to draw her the previous day, and he has been waiting for her ever since. Soon after, she drags a couch she stole from the crafts club into the room and claims that she only did it because the current chairs in the room are uncomfortable. They then look out the window to watch the baseball match, and she starts to comment on how good the star player is, even though he is the same age as Naoto. Hearing this, Naoto instantly feels jealous, and he wonders how nice it must be for the player to get praises from people. He admits he wishes people praised him like that too, so she asks if he compliments people, and when he replies that he doesn't, she suggests he start praising people to get praised in return. To start with, she offers to be his first muse and encourages him to compliment her, but he panics internally, unsure whether complimenting her face, legs, or even her hair would sound creepy. He then nervously compliments her hair, but she just laughs at his word choice before telling him to continue. He continues to compliment her till he talks about how cool he thought she was during their first encounter. The compliment immediately softens her expression, and she quietly thanks him. Wanting to return the favor, she tries to compliment him too by simply telling him that he has a funny face. Soon after, she starts striking sussy poses for him to draw, but he orders her to pose normally before he gets distracted. She complies, and as he is about to start, he wonders why she keeps insisting that he draw her. He soon begins to turn red as he takes in her hot body and tells her to fix her skirt. Even at that, he still struggles to draw her, though he blames it on her constant fidgeting, so she decides to sleep instead. After she sleeps, he quietly studies her features and begins to draw her until he finally finishes, though the sketch comes out rough from rushing it. When she wakes up and sees it, she decides to reward him, and he closes his eyes, assuming it is just going to be one of her antics. He, however, feels something soft on his lips, and thinking it is a kiss, he opens his eyes immediately, only to realize that he is just kissing her doll. The following day, Nagatoro visits Naoto at the art room to disturb him as usual, only to get completely ignored. As she starts to wonder what's wrong, Yoshi and Hamo suddenly interrupt her and demand that Naoto hang out with them. Hearing this makes Nagatoro instantly get jealous, so when she hears him agree to follow them, she completely loses it. All of a sudden, she jerks up and finds out that she has been dreaming. She then notices that Naoto covered her with a blanket while she was asleep, which makes her realize that he may not be as gross as she thinks. The following day, Naoto notices her mischievous face and immediately thinks she must be up to something again. Just then, she rushes towards him and starts to tickle him like crazy. After she is done, she concludes he is sensitive and claims she is not ticklish at all. She then tries to tease him into tickling her, and when he agrees, she strips in front of him to reveal her swimsuit, waiting for him to tickle her. He summons courage and tries to tickle her, but when he is just inches away, she suddenly stops him, stating she is just kidding. Shortly after, she shows him a video of a sheep being sheared off on her phone, claiming it is satisfying to watch, and then notices that his hair could use a trip to the barber. Staring at his hair intently makes her start to compare him to a sheep, so she asks if he would love to get his hair sheared off. He quickly replies that he is not a sheep before telling her he would see a barber the next day, but she takes matters into her own hands and offers to do the barbing herself by showing him a clipper she has. Surprised, he asks why she has a clipper in the first place, and she claims that she borrowed it from her brother. She then moves closer to him to barb his hair, but he blatantly refuses because he only uses a razor to trim his hair. Hearing this, she pulls out a pair of scissors and a comb to get to work. He is skeptical about this, but she assures him that she is a pro who cuts her brother's hair at home. The fact that a hot chick like Nagatoro is willing to cut his hair surprisingly makes him happy, so he complies. As she proceeds to start, she suddenly receives an urgent call from her friends to come get her note, so she excuses herself, promising to return soon. Unknown to her, the call she received was a prank call from her friends who entered the art room right after she left. Naoto immediately realizes this can only mean trouble, and the chicks start snooping around the room like they are looking for lost property. While at it, they come across the clipper, and he quickly explains that Nagatoro wanted to cut his hair. Hearing this gives the chicks the terrible idea of shaving him bald, so they offer to help him instead. Yoshi then holds him against his will while Gamo tries to cut his hair. Seeing that there is no way out, he starts to shake his head like a wet dog, which makes the chicks try to stop him. Meanwhile, Nagatoro is on her way back to the art room after not seeing her friends anywhere, only to hear noise coming from the room. Immediately, she rushes to the room and clears her throat to interrupt her friends, who become shocked on seeing her. Nagatoro then marches towards them angrily, so they drop the clippers and run out of the room faster than the flash. After the little mishap, Nagatoro finally cuts his hair with care and shows him his new look when she's done. Surprised, he actually likes his new look, and he thanks her for helping out, which catches her off guard before quickly recovering and informing him that a little trim will only make him look less creepy. On the way home after classes, Nagatoro complains about the hot weather to Naoto and suggests they get shaved ice. Naoto feels it is a good idea, and she quickly informs him that she knows a shop they can stop by. Getting there, she is shocked to see a crowd waiting to also place their orders. She then learns that the shop was declared the #1 shaved ice shop on television the previous day and becomes disappointed that people have discovered her favorite spot. Still, she drags Naoto into the massive line despite his protests. About 30 minutes later, he comments on how the line hasn't moved at all, but she encourages him to endure it with willpower. Just then, he notices some cultured guys standing behind them, totally checking out her soaked uniform, and he immediately feels irritated. He then stands behind her, much to the guy's disappointment. After waiting for a long time, the heat eventually starts getting to her, and he becomes worried by her current state. To help her, he suddenly grabs her and takes her to a shed where he offers a drink he just bought, claiming she needs it to avoid heat stroke. She drinks it and suddenly feels energetic after she is done. Though she still feels bad that she did not get the shaved ice, she gives up on going and suggests they go when it is less busy. She then runs off and returns with a bowl of ice cream to thank him for helping her earlier. After they are done with the ice cream, they return home, and she uses the chance to talk about how she is going to be busy volunteering at the swim club over the summer break that is starting the next day. He then starts thinking about how boring the break might become if Nagatoro stops bothering him every day. Just then, she suddenly grabs his drink and starts to drink it like it is her own, while he quietly watches her. After she is done, he quickly looks elsewhere to avoid being called a creep while she returns the drink and asks for his contact. As they exchange contact, he informs her that she is not going to get anything good out of connecting with him, but she ignores him and immediately adds his contact to her favorites. She then lets him know that it will be easier to send him a sticker if she finds him doing anything cultured. When they eventually part ways, he contemplates taking his drink now that she drank from it, only for him to suddenly receive a text from Nagatoro, who is currently watching him from a corner, calling him cultured. The following day, Naoto suddenly wakes up and finds himself in heaven, where an angel declares him the savior of the world. Surprised, he starts to question how that happened, but the angel ignores his request and tells him about a bad demon lord that he needs to defeat. Since he is a loser with no powers, he declines the request, so the angel lets him know that he has a unique skill called Virgin for Life. Before he can complain about this, the angel hands him a staff and pushes him back to Earth. Getting there, his staff suddenly lights up to give him a safe landing, which leaves him stunned. He then takes in his new environment, only for him to suddenly jump off a giant lizard, and he immediately runs for his life. On the way, he stops to attack the lizard with his staff, but the lizard easily tanks the attack, and he realizes that he is cooked. He then sits waiting to be devoured, but Nagatoro suddenly appears and kicks the lizard into the nearest stream. After that, she checks him out, sees that he is weak, decides to stick with him, and drags him on an adventure to defeat the demon lord. Together, they embark on the journey until they finally face a dragon. Nagatoro then proceeds to attack it while Naoto just watches the action from afar. While at it, the dragon suddenly gets the upper hand and spits fire at Nagatoro, but Naoto quickly steps in to defend her with his staff. He then decides to launch a counterattack, and they eventually take the dragon out. After the fight, Nagatoro rewards him with a peck for acting cool, and it takes all the strength in him to calm himself down. She then encourages they continue to work together to defeat the demon lord, only for them to be interrupted by the dragon, who has now transformed into Gamo. Nagatoro quickly runs to greet her while Naoto wonders what the hell is going on. He then figures she must have been turned into a dragon by the demon lord's magic, and he wonders if 3 of them will be able to take him out. He soon realizes that they are going to be 4 in number, just as an egg suddenly hatches into Yoshi, which leaves him confused. Shortly after, the 4 of them arrive at the demon lord's castle only to realize that he is not on his throne. The 3 chicks then suddenly transform into a demon version of themselves, which leaves him stunned. As the chicks mock him for falling into their traps, he lights up his staff to attack them, but it does not work. Nagatoro then starts to shade him for thinking they had something going on because she pecked him, and he starts to tear up. The other chicks soon join in the teasing until Nagatoro chains him, declaring him as her toy forever. He then starts to crash out until he eventually wakes up and realizes that he has been dreaming in a restaurant. To make matters worse, Nagatoro and her friends suddenly call out to him. Nagatoro then moves closer to him to ask what he is doing at the restaurant, and he claims that he is working on his summer homework. Before she can ask for more details, he quickly excuses himself. But this only makes her suspicious, so she looks at the seat he just exited and finds a book containing drawings of her. She then runs out of the restaurant to catch up with him and demand an explanation regarding the book, and upon noticing her, he starts running to avoid explaining himself. She, however, catches up with him and continues to pester him, but he keeps lying that he is not the owner of the book, so she decides to keep it. The following day, he chills in his room, watching a live event on his television about how people are currently visiting the beach because of the hot weather. Uninterested, he switches off his television, planning to stay in his room. Just then, he suddenly receives a call from Nagatoro, and as he picks it up, She quickly tells him to quit wasting his summer break in his room and accompany her to the beach. He then goes to meet her at the place they agreed on as their meeting point, only to see that her friends are coming too. They then head to the beach together, and the chicks keep taking turns picking on him, but he refuses to react since he is already used to it. Getting to the beach, he starts to set up, only for him to see Gamo stripping to show her banging body that belongs on a runway show. Gamo notices him staring and tells him to stop ogling her. Just then, Yoshi also strips to distract him, and the two chicks start laughing at his startled reaction, while Nagatoro watches them in anger from afar. As he excuses himself to go get some drinks, Nagatoro strips and calls out to him to get something for her too. Not long after, the chicks decide to go for a swim, but when they call on Naoto to join them, he refuses because he wants to draw. The chicks then start to have fun in the water without him, but Nagatoro keeps glancing at him to see if he is alright. Moments later, she walks up to him to check on him and asks if he does not know how to swim. She then learns that he can, but he is only scared of getting sunburned, so she brings out her sunscreen and offers to use it on him. He refuses at first, but she strips him and tells him to lie on his stomach so she can apply it. He knows that agreeing to it will eventually lead him to getting dragged into swimming, so he tells her that only lovers apply sunscreen on each other, just to scare her away. However, she refuses to be moved by his words and just goes rough on him instead. While at it, her friends suddenly join her against her wishes, while he desperately wishes to escape. After they are done, they drag him into the water just as he expected. The four of them then spend the rest of the evening messing around at the beach. When he eventually gets home, Nagatoro calls to check if he got sunburned, but he assures her that he is good while staring at the picture of her he drew while on the beach. The following day, Naoto takes a stroll in his street and realizes from the outfits of the passers-by that the town's summer festival is happening that day. He then wonders if Nagatoro is going to make him attend the festival. Soon after, he returns home to play video games, but his eyes keep glancing at his wall clock, wondering if she is eventually going to call him before the end. He then wonders if he should try inviting her instead, but he quickly decides against it to avoid being creepy. Not long after, he arrives at the summer festival with the hope of casually running into her, only for Gamo and Yoshi to find him instead. He quickly runs off to avoid their trouble, but they chase after him until they corner him. They then start to tease him by asking if he came for the festival, thinking he will run into Nagatoro, but he quickly denies it. Still, Gamo informs him that Nagatoro is stuck at swimming practice, so he proceeds to excuse himself, but they stop him, claiming that they want him to enjoy the festival. Meanwhile, Nagatoro is at the swimming club, talking to her friend about probably skipping the summer festival, when she suddenly receives a picture from her friends showing that Naoto is at the festival. Not long after, Nagatoro suddenly shows up at the speed of light and lies that her practice finished early, so she decided to show up because she was bored. Seeing that Gamo is currently holding Naoto hostage, Nagatoro asks that he be handed over to her, but Gamo refuses and informs her that she will have to fight for him to get him. She then accepts the challenge, even though she claims that she does not care about him. For the challenge, Gamo announces that they are going to be teaming up, and anyone who gets better items at the end wins. When they start, Gamo goes first and hits an item but fails to get it, so Nagatoro advises her to aim higher. She then turns to Naoto to tease him for showing up at the festival and asks if he was waiting for her to invite him. He then starts to stutter, but she just focuses her attention on the item she is aiming for and gets it. After that, she advises him to always try to shoot a shot with anyone he would love to take out. The four of them then continue to play different games to stack up their items. After they are done with the games, they start to argue over who should win based on the items they gathered, and Nagatoro comes out victorious. Not long after, Gamo and Yoshi bid Nagatoro and Naoto farewell, and the two of them stand awkwardly till Nagatoro suggests they look around. They then walk down the streets together, eating street food in the process, and she confirms his current thoughts by stating that they look like a couple on a date. Even at that, he tries to feign ignorance, claiming that dates are only meant for people who have gone through the right procedures. She laughs in response and lets him know she is joking because she can never go on a date with a loser like him. She then suggests they hold hands, but before he can bring himself to do that, they are suddenly interrupted by fireworks, so she drags him to a place where they can get a better view against his wishes. Getting there, they join the queue with a sea of others waiting to see the fireworks, and he realizes that it is going to take longer than expected. He then stares at a path he followed while he was younger to look at the fireworks, and he grabs her from the crowd to accompany him. On the way, she starts to tease him about what he is up to that is making him take her somewhere quiet, only to be interrupted by fireworks, and she is shocked to see them at a close distance. Even though she is impressed, she continues to tease him for dragging her on a date in the dark. He tries to explain that it is not the case, but she continues to tease him for trying to do something sleazy with her, even though he is a virgin. To mess with her, he suddenly asks her for what she means by sleazy, and she boldly declares that she meant smooching and smashing, which catches him completely off guard. She then continues to tease him that a virgin like himself can't initiate stuff like that, and when he tries to counter her by asking if she can, she admits that she can. She then moves closer to kiss him, only for the fireworks to light up, and they realize that they are surrounded by couples who are currently making out. Embarrassed, they quickly move to a quieter area to watch the fireworks from there. After that, they return home together, and he remembers the advice she gave him on always trying to shoot a shot. Acting on that, he nervously tells her that they should go to the next year's festival together, and she instantly agrees. 2 weeks later, Naoto walks to school to resume the session, and he suddenly overhears Nagatoro and her friends discussing. He quickly hides to hear what they are talking about, and as he watches Nagatoro laugh with her friends, he quietly realizes how different their worlds still feel despite how much time they spend together. His thoughts are then interrupted by two guys who walk over to talk to the chicks. As they start to converse with them, Naoto suddenly feels jealous. One of the guys then tries to get Nagatoro to go out with him, but she declines, while Naoto suddenly walks toward them before he can stop himself. He soon steps on a tree branch and quickly hides out of shyness, but the others notice him and tell him to come over. Getting there, he nervously tells Nagatoro to follow him, and even though he feels bad because the others start mocking him, Nagatoro suddenly stands up and follows him while her friends prepare to follow her too. The following morning, Nagatoro starts to make fun of Naoto's skinny arm, and he becomes upset. Seeing this, she tells him not to feel sorry for himself and to get ready for some strength training. Even though he is uninterested, she continues to talk about how being dedicated to the training will make him go from looking like a string bean to a radish. He, however, refuses to do it because he feels it is a lot of work and suggests that he is down for any exercise that requires zero movement. Not long after, she comes up with a routine and forces him to get on his fours. He complies, and she sits on him. She then tells him to stay like that for a few minutes, but he starts to tremble just a few seconds in. She starts to cheer him up so he won't give up early, until they attract some of their colleagues, who instantly run off, thinking they are crazy. To make matters worse, his arms give up just then, and he collapses onto all four like a terrified cat. A few hours later, he starts to feel sleepy because he spent his night playing a recently released video game. She then calls out to him to ask if he has been studying hard for the upcoming midterm exams, and though he is internally panicking from lack of preparation, he claims that he is going to do fine in the exam. She, however, does not believe his response and starts to paint the worst possible scenario of him flunking the exam, which involves him repeating his class. He quickly brushes her scenario off, claiming he would never repeat a class, but she does not believe and continues to ask if he is okay with repeating his class. He then opens up about how he does not feel it is a bad idea because he gets to spend more time in the art room. Sensing that he does not get it yet, she reminds him that if he repeats his class, then they are going to be mates next session, and he is going to be stuck with her. Still, he admits it probably would not be boring with her around, but she does not take this comment lightly and starts to call him a creep. She then lets him know that she would not want to see his face every morning, so he had better start studying like his life depends on it. Thanks to this, he starts to study like crazy, and Nagatoro and her friends start to pick on him. Gamo suggests that having him in their class is actually going to be fun, and if he fails again, he gets to be their junior. Excited by the idea, they begin to cook up scenarios where they would work him to the bone if it ever happens. Hearing this only makes him more determined to study hard and ace the exam. When the results for the exam eventually come out, Nagatoro sees that he aced everything, and she gets pissed that he studied that hard just to avoid becoming her classmate. The following morning, Nagatoro heads to class only for her to stop by the entrance of the art room when she hears something that sounds like a smashing session. As she listens carefully, she realizes that it may be Naoto and one of her friends, so she barges in and sees that her friends are indeed with him. She becomes annoyed at the way Yoshi is resting her melons on his head, so her other friends quickly clarify that they were only trying to help him pull out a splinter he sustained while trying to help them earlier. She then rushes towards him and pulls out the splinter herself, causing the others to clap at how cool she was. After classes, she heads home with Naoto and starts to tease him for always being a Mr. Nice Guy to everybody around him. He, however, does not see anything bad in it, so she suggests he carry her backpack, but he refuses since it is not heavy. Refusing to give up, she suggests they play a game to take turns carrying each other's bags. Unfortunately for her, he wins the first round, which leads to her carrying his bag in annoyance. She also does not waste time shading him for letting her carry his stuff, but when he suggests helping, she refuses. Not long after, they get to where they will play the next round of games. He intentionally loses to her this time around, but soon regrets it when she takes her celebration overboard. He then carries her bag for the next round, and when they get to the final round, he decides not to go easy on her. Unfortunately for him, she ends up winning the round, and when he asks for her bag, she jumps on him, claiming she would love to be carried instead. Defeated, he starts to carry her home, and she uses the chance to tease him for carrying a chick for the first time in his life. As he continues the journey, he realizes that she is beginning to slip off because he is getting weak, so he tries to adjust her, but his hand mistakenly heads up on her plot. Immediately, she jumps off him and runs off in embarrassment while he starts to feel bad that he may have upset her. Getting home, He nervously waits for her text, and when it comes in, she asks if he is currently doing something cultured, but he replies that he is just doing his homework. She suddenly calls him soon after, and he nervously picks up to see what she wants. Turns out she is just having a bath and wants to tease him about it, so hearing him act like a freaked out virgin brings joy to her. While at it, she mistakenly switches the call to a video call, and he quickly turns her attention to it, which causes her to scream out in embarrassment. The following day, Nagatoro starts shoulder boxing, thereby distracting Naoto, who just wants to draw in peace. She then stares at him mischievously and starts disturbing him to be her sparring partner. When he finally agrees, he specifically warns her that boxers are not supposed to hit anyone outside the ring, and she promises to abide by the rules. She then starts to throw multiple punches at him, but he gets startled and accidentally falls on her. He quickly gets off, apologizes, and waits for her to beat him to death, but she doesn't. Nagatoro then goes to inform her friends about the sparring session, and her friends all decide to get a taste of him in action. She quickly stops them and informs them that they are not supposed to hit anyone outside a ring, but they just let her know that she has also violated the rule. Seeing that she has no other option, she barges into the art room to inform Naoto to run for his life, but her friends rush in just in time. She then immediately tries to defend him, which makes him figure that the whole situation is probably her fault in the first place. The following day, he arrives at the art room and sees that Nagatoro and her friends have turned it into their personal studio. Though he is annoyed, he walks up to his stand and asks why they decided to come to the art room to make noise. Gamo then replies that they got tired of their usual hangout spot because an annoying group that won't shut up decided to join their spot. He is surprised to hear this because he thought the chicks would want to teach them a lesson, only for him to learn that the chicks had already come up with a plan by using the power of Sakura's melon to set the group up by turning each member against the other. Hearing about their tactics makes him take a mental note not to get on their bad side, and he proceeds to draw, only to be interrupted by Gamo claiming he never gets thirsty for chicks. Nagatoro quickly comes to his defense, stating how he always gets red anytime she teases him. To prove her point, she leans in for a kiss, and when he overreacts, she informs them that she is right. Gamo, however, does not believe this and claims that he is only reacting as any freaked-out virgin would, and this soon turns into an argument between her and Nagatoro. Nagatoro then suggests a bet to settle their argument, and she reveals that he keeps a stash of cultured magazines in the room, so anyone who finds one first wins. Gamo accepts the challenge, and Nagatoro starts to snoop around to find the magazines. While at it, Gamo claims that she is just wasting her time trying to find it, but she refuses to give up, while he just sits there pitying her because he keeps his cultured magazine in the next room. Seeing how determined she is to prove Gamo wrong, he sneaks out to the next room. He then sneaks back in with the magazine and stylishly reveals it to the others. Nagatoro is so happy that her theory is correct, but she starts to smack him for being cultured, so he regrets helping her out in the first place. The following day, Nagatoro interrupts Naoto's drawing session as usual, and he sees that she has a new pair of earrings on. She notices him staring at her ears and asks him for his thoughts about the earrings. He shyly replies that it looks good on her, and she thanks him for the compliment before yapping on about the process she had to go through to get her ears pierced. After she is done, she suddenly suggests he gets his ears pierced too, but he quickly complains about how weird it is going to look on him. She, however, pictures him hot with earrings and informs him to only wear them in the art room if he feels embarrassed about it, suggesting that they get matching earrings. The idea of matching earrings with her suddenly makes him feel hot, so he agrees to get his ears pierced, but it turns out she is just joking with him. Just then, Sakura interrupts them to cry on his shoulders, which makes Nagatoro wonder what brings such familiarity. Not long after, Naoto, Nagatoro, and her friends all sit to hear Sakura's story. Apparently, Sakura now has a stalker from the annoying group because of the stunt they pulled earlier, and she is beginning to get scared. Gamoe asks for Naoto's input on the situation, but he just claims that she brought it upon herself. This only makes Sakura cry harder until she suddenly comes up with a plan and asks Naoto to pretend to be her boyfriend to scare her stalker away. The others chime in to encourage him to go along with the plan, but Nagatoro immediately objects and starts to paint him as a creepy stalker to her friends. This makes her friends start to laugh at him, but he denies her allegation, and Sakura asks him to go along with the plan then. He reluctantly agrees, which leaves Nagatoro completely stunned. The following day, he waits for Sakura at the meeting spot for their supposed date, and she arrives soon after. They then take a stroll together, not knowing that her friends are secretly watching them nearby. As Naoto and Sakura continue to walk, Gamo notices that Nagatoro is not cool with it and decides to get mischievous by talking about how they make fake dating look real. Nagatoro quickly argues against it, which makes Gamo ask why she is acting so worked up, but she claims she is not. Not long after, Sakura and Naoto begin to wonder where the stalker may be, only for them to be interrupted by Nagatoro holding the stalker hostage. Nagatoro then forces the stalker to apologize to Sakura, and as he does, Nagatoro declares that they can end the dating charade now. The following day, Nagatoro mischievously asks Naoto if he wants a little treat. Immediately, his cultured mind pictures her taking a sussy picture, and as she continues to tease him about it, the wilder his imagination becomes. He then looks away to regain himself, only for her to show him chicken bites, claiming she was referring to them. Seeing his reaction, she begins to tease him for allowing his imagination to run wild before handing him a bite. The following morning, the chicks watch Naoto run with his classmates during their physical education class from afar, but he keeps running like he is on his last breath, which leaves Nagatoro unimpressed. When he returns home later in the evening, Nagatoro suddenly interrupts him to ask why he was running like a headless chicken earlier. He replies that he is not good at running, and she tries to talk him into practicing daily, but he quickly refuses and informs her that he is only good at drawing. Seeing that it is going to be harder than she expected, she suddenly orders that they will be having a training session the next day. So the next morning, he patiently waits for her at their meeting point. Soon after, she arrives looking breathtaking, thereby leaving him extremely stunned. He then regains himself and greets her, but she smacks his head in response, because she totally caught him checking her out. They then begin the training session, and while at it, he starts to feel that he will be knocking at heaven's gate very soon. Just then, he notices Nagatoro's banging body and starts to shamelessly check her out until she calls on him to run faster, and he quickens his pace only to fall behind seconds later. During a short break, he confesses that he cannot go on anymore, and she starts to shade him for being weak. As she continues to shade him in hope of getting a reaction out of him, he suddenly becomes furious and runs off, which makes her happy that her method is working. When he finally finishes the race, she praises him for not giving up, after which she urges him to start stretching to lessen the muscle fatigue he will feel the next day. As they continue stretching, she suddenly strikes a pose that sends his virgin brain into a sudden emergency, and it takes her telling him to strike the same pose for him to finally regain himself. However, his body is too stiff to go into such a position, so she starts to train him from the beginner's level. While at it, her bosoms keep resting on his back, which makes it very difficult for him to focus. A week later, Nagatoro overhears Naoto speaking about hiring a model, and she suddenly asks what's up with that. She then learns that he is looking for a model to fit into his piece for the upcoming school culture festival, and she offers to model for him, but he quickly declines. Annoyed, she asks why he would regret such an amazing offer, and he claims that he wants to draw a guy instead because he has a hard time staring at chicks, so she goes to pick up his drawing of her that she stumbled upon to prove that he is lying. Seeing that there is no way out, he agrees to draw her under the condition that she prepares her own outfit. She then asks what outfit he would want her to pull up in, and he points to the one in the drawing. With a mischievous smile on his face, he watches her start to panic, and he is pleased because there is no way she is going to get the outfit. The next morning, she pulls up to the art room in the suggested outfit, which catches him completely off guard. Not long after, she poses for him to draw her while her friends watch the whole thing go down. While at it, Nagatoro and her friends start to talk about the various events their separate clubs are putting together for the upcoming festival, and they learn that Sakura has decided to join her stalkers group. Nagatoro then asks Naoto what the art club is going to do at the festival, and he remembers the time the art room used to be full of his seniors until the president of his club informed him one day that they would be studying for art school, and she counted on him to keep the club running. Nagatoro calls him back to reality, and he quickly replies that he will put up an art exhibit, but the chicks just talk about how boring it is going to be. They then begin to suggest ridiculous ideas to give it more hype, like running a drag cafe with him dressing as a chick, until he suddenly hears a familiar footstep approaching the room. Immediately, he tells the chicks to hide in a room for the meantime, and they comply. Just then, the president of his club opens the door to reveal herself, and he asks about what brought her to the room. The president replies that she needs no specific reason to show up, after which she talks about what the club can do for the upcoming culture festival. He suggests they do an exhibit where she can showcase one of her artworks, but instead of giving him a response on that, she informs him of the rumor she heard about him trying to turn the art room into a hangout center for chicks. She also informs him of how the student council issued her a warning, and she only came to see how seriously he is taking the club. But seeing him draw weird pictures of chicks makes her wonder why he wants to turn their club into a manga club. She then promises to shut the club down if he does not take it seriously, and as she proceeds to leave, Nagatoro and her friends come out of the room where they are hiding. Nagatoro moves closer to the president to defend Naoto by stating she has no right to shut down the club after neglecting it all this time. She then starts to talk about the times Naoto always put the club first with his dedication to drawing. Hearing this, the president lets them know that she would love to see his so-called drawings at the culture festival and challenges him to go up against her. If he is able to gather more votes than her during the exhibition, then she won't shut down the club. After the president takes her leave, Nagatoro starts to mimic her in front of her friends, but Naoto just focuses on his current drawing, thinking of how cooked he currently is. He then cautions them to stop speaking ill of the president, but they ignore him, and Nagatoro encourages him that taking on the president of his club is quite historic. She asks him for the odds of beating her, and he informs them that it is 0, because the president is very good at her craft. The chicks, however, don't take him seriously, and he starts to talk about the times the president has helped the club win various competitions. Still, Gamo does not take him seriously because she believes they are just drawings, and he tries to explain how her art is always received a little differently. To prove his point, he shows them an artwork of the presidents that only members of the OnlyFans premium subscription should have access to. Seeing this stuns them into silence until Nagatoro starts to accuse him of keeping such cultured stuff on school premises. He assures her that it is just an artwork the school knows about, but she is more interested in what he thinks of the artwork, and he starts to compliment it. After he is done, Nagatoro informs him that she does not mind modeling for him to help his chances of beating the president, but he is not even confident in himself to do that. Gamo agrees with him, stating that the president has more melons to work with compared to Nagatoro's, and Nagatoro becomes upset. Gamo and her friends then try to cheer her up, but they just end up praising the president's artwork instead. Hearing this strikes a nerve in Naoto, and he quickly defends Nagatoro by stating that she has her own charms. Excited that he stood up for her, Nagatoro tells the others to apologize to her, and they comply. They then start to come up with various ways to beat the president, and the fact that his messing up may lead to the eventual shutdown of the club leaves him worried. After the meeting, he walks home with Nagatoro, who wonders if his innocent drawings can really compete with the president's artwork and vows to help him out. The next day, she pulls up in a swimsuit for him to draw her, but he makes no progress, so she decides to try another outfit, but his drawing is still not good enough. She then changes into a blanket wrapped around her body just as her friends walk in to check on the progress. Gamo then grabs her bosom to see what they will be working with, while Naoto just keeps wondering how he is going to beat the president. Remembering what is at stake, he tells the chicks that he would love some time alone to draw because he does not want to get Nagatoro into a competition that will result in her turning into a laughingstock if he loses. Nagatoro tries to tell him that she is unbothered by that, but he just wants to be left alone. Annoyed by his reaction, Nagatoro tells him to get the president to model for him before taking her leave. The following morning, Naoto arrives at the art room and realizes that the president has divided the room in half because she wants to start working on her artwork too. Determined not to lose, he gets to work and starts to paint, only for the president to interrupt him soon after and shade for painting something ridiculous. He, however, is more concerned by the president's outfit, and she lets him know that she was taking pictures for her new piece. She then gives him advice on how to spice up his ridiculous painting by encouraging him to embrace love, only for Nagatoro to interrupt them, and she immediately gets the wrong idea, which makes her leave immediately. The president notices a change in his attitude because of this and encourages him to go after her, so he rushes out to catch up with her. Getting to her, he suddenly realizes that he does not even know what to say. So when some of their classmates walk up to them to ask if he is trying to ask her out, she claims that he is just a creepy stalker before running off. Even at that, he continues to chase after her, as memories of the times they shared together begin to flood his mind. When he eventually catches up with her, he loudly blurts out that he wants her to model for him. Since she is still mad at him, she tells him to go and ask the president instead. She then trips and almost falls into the pool, but he quickly grabs her. He then admits that it is her he wishes to draw because he finds her attractive when she acts like herself. She, however, just thinks he is a creep for that and tries to release herself from his hold, which eventually sends both of them falling into the pool. On the way back home, Nagatoro asks if his drawing of her is starting to look good, even though she still feels her flashy cosplay will be much better. He replies that he finds her normal self cute, causing both of them to immediately freak out at his statement. The day of the event finally arrives, and Naoto, Nagatoro, and her friends check out the paintings that Naoto cooked up. They all gush over how good it looks, and when Gamoe asks for the painting's concept, he claims that it is a day in the life of Nagatoro. Nagatoro also praises him for doing a fantastic job, though she still feels that the paintings give off creepy virgin vibes. Gamo quickly reminds them that all they need to do now is focus on the president's art, so they try to sneak into her work studio, but Naoto insists that he is not going to join them because he does not want to be demoralized. Nagatoro then assures him not to fret because she believes he is going to beat her. After that, she joins the others to snoop around the president's work studio, only for the chicks to return with a passed-out Nagatoro. When she finally regains consciousness, she starts to reminisce on what she saw at the president's studio, while Gamo informs Naoto that the president's artwork is absolutely insane. She then suggests that Nagatoro strip for Naoto to paint, but Naoto declines. He also informs the other chicks not to worry about him, because it is between him and Nagatoro. Still, the chicks insist on helping him out. When the time for the festival finally arrives, the president warns Naoto not to go easy on her because she won't be nice either, and he agrees. Not long after, the president confidently addresses the school press club on her new artwork, but when it gets to Naoto's turn to address the press, he nervously blurts out that he just wants to express the charm of the chick that modeled for him. Just then, Nagatoro and her friends, who are dressed as life-size teddy bears, suddenly interrupt the briefing to entertain the press with their dancing skills and get the attention of a nervous Naoto. News of their display soon reaches the other students, and Nagatoro uses the chance to invite some guys to Naoto's art exhibition. Getting there, Naoto is happy that they love his paintings, only for him to later realize that the guys are just complimenting his paintings because they wish to go out with Nagatoro. Nagatoro uses the guys' naivety to her advantage, and soon after, more people troop in to come check out Naoto's exhibition. Even at that, the president still has more students going in to check out her artwork, but Naoto is glad that Nagatoro's plan is also getting people to check out his exhibition, though he feels kind of jealous about how she is interacting with the other guys. Just then, two chicks interrupt him to ask about the paintings, and when they find out that he painted them, they start to praise him. Unfortunately for the chicks, Nagatoro notices them and becomes mad, so when Gamo tells her to go for a break, she refuses because she does not want to leave yet. Soon after, Nagatoro and Naoto decide to go for lunch together, and she uses the chance to tease him for becoming Mr. Popular overnight. He claims that he only got compliments because the paintings turned out well, and it is all thanks to her modeling for him. Hearing this, she starts to punch him lightly while trying to hide that his words please her. Even at that, he thanks her for modeling for him, and she smacks him playfully because hearing that excites her. They then enjoy lunch together, and on the way back to their post, they are shocked to see that the president's erotic painting is being confiscated. Together, they eavesdrop at the student guidance office to hear what is going on. Turns out that the discipline committee members are not happy with her artworks because they are in a school environment, but the president claims that she is just expressing herself as an artist. However, the discipline committee president forbids her from displaying her art during the culture festival, but Naoto barges in just then to defend his president's art. He then talks about his struggles of being a better artist like his president until he realizes that what he really wants to draw deep down is Nagatoro. The student council remains unconvinced, and he has also run out of words to say, so Nagatoro's friends push her forward to help him out. Nagatoro then talks about how she thinks the president's artwork is pretty, but the discipline committee president begs to differ, stating it is just her opinion. Yoshi then steps forward to also talk about how she and other viewers she has come in contact with during the course of the exhibition all find her artwork amazing, which leaves the discipline committee president defeated. Not long after, the president approached Naoto and the others to give them the outcome of the meeting. Turns out she will only be allowed to continue the exhibition if she gives a report on how the viewers see her paintings. She then thanks them for supporting her during the meeting, and even though they are grateful, Nagatoro still shades her for losing to them by default. The president also takes back her word on shutting down the club, which makes the others jubilate. After the exhibition ends, the president compliments Naoto's paintings, which leaves him and Nagatoro happy. She then talks about how she sees love in them. Nagatoro then teases him about it, but he tries to deny it. They are soon interrupted by an announcement to gather at the school auditorium for the closing ceremony, and Naoto musters the courage to ask Nagatoro to follow him. She quickly tells him to repeat himself to confirm her ears are not glitching, but before he can get to it, her friends suddenly interrupt them and tell them to go to the auditorium, so she drags him along. The following day, he finally draws Nagatoro confidently, and when he is done, she announces that it is time for his usual reward. Thinking she is just trying to mess with him again, he closes his eyes and expects the worst, but she ends up giving him a peck on the cheek, which leaves him flushed. If you watched this anime recap and made it to the end, let us know in the comments if you would survive a week of Naoto and Nagatoro teasing you non-stop. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps like this.